So what if I told you there is a way of knowing how a competition was won? A place where you had the architects that created the winning submission explaining and deconstructing how they created that design. Where you could almost go inside of their heads and understand the thought process behind each decision in their design process. Hey guys, I'm Steven, and today we will take a look at a special book that tackles these questions and much more. So let's start. So normally the majority of competitions functions more or less in the same way. There's a brief, there's a jury, there's an organizer, and there are some dates for us to sign up and submit our project. After the results are shown, we see first that we didn't win the competition, and second, that the winners have a project that we don't fully understand. We don't fully understand why they won and not us. What was so special about their project? How did they take their design process so they could be the winners of that competition? Imagine having all of that valuable information in one place. Having the winners specifically tell you why they won or why they think they won and how they led that design process. So that is why today I want to talk about this book, the Architecture Competitions Yearbook, and how it tackles that question and many more. But before we talk about this book, I want to talk a little bit about how we consume competitions, how we consume projects, and how that benefits us as architects. If you're like anyone that has adapted to current technology, you check out your current competitions, the future competitions, the winners, the projects, inspiration for competitions, etc. through social media, through the internet, check Instagram, Pinterest, etc. But if you're maybe of my generation or older, you maybe had some magazines like these of different editorials where you could see different types of projects, the competitions, which were the winners and what projects did they win with and what was their competition. But there's something that these magazines lack that I had never really noticed before. That was until I had this yearbook to actually see. In these magazines, you never got the privilege to go inside of the minds of the winners of the competitions. You never got to see their thought process, deconstruct it, and most of all, you didn't get exclusive interviews with them or a chance to see the actual presentation boards with which they won. So I want to show you this book, which actually answers the question of how a competition was won 10 different times. So 10 team of architects that explain how they won that specific competition. So maybe I want to go inside and show you one or two of these 10 explanations and all the other elements that it comes with. So this yearbook is part of the Competitions Archie website, which is a place where you can see current and future competitions from all over the world and see which one you can participate in, etc. They have gathered up all of the most important competitions from 2020 and put them in this book. Not only the winners, but also the second and third place and some honorable mentions. Also, they have in this year's edition 3 interviews with professional architects that talk around the subject of competitions and the design process. So I want to talk about this book because it's a very, very interesting, I don't know if it's a book or a magazine or a yearbook, but it has a very nice cover. It has around 305 pages, I think. It's a very dense book. It has a lot of projects, a lot of information, and the cover is really nice. It has a cover from, I think you all know him. It's Zine McFarlane. He is, I think, a UK-based illustrator and architect, which has some really, really nice illustrations, and this one doesn't disappoint as well. And overall, the book is really nice. It has a really nice color palette. Once you go inside the book, well, first of all, you can smell the air of a real book, of a magazine, which is something that I think we all need because it's very different from scrolling through Instagram or Pinterest than to having an actual book on your hands, an actual magazine in your hand, and seeing plans, seeing projects, etc. It is structured. First, it has 3 interviews with 3 different architects. One of those architects is Natalie DeVries from MVRDV, and then it has 10 competitions from 2020, the Ivalo competition, the Archstorming competition, the Blank Space Fairy Tales competition. It has a ton of competitions. The Young Architects competition, like a lot of nice competitions. I think I've said the competitions a lot in this video already. From each competition, it's kind of like a mini chapter. It has the description of the competition, the first prize winner, the second prize winner, the third prize winner, and an exclusive interview on each of the winners and how they won that competition. The graphic design of this yearbook, it's really nice, and it's not only interesting because it's about architecture, but because it's something that we can take inspiration from to apply in our portfolio. So if you are creating your portfolio right now, then looking at this magazine will give you lots of graphic design ideas of how to put your images, how to put your text, what typographies you can use, and how to make them page numbers, etc. So you can see many types of diagrams, you can see many types of renders, of illustrations, of collages, etc. So this is a really nice book just because of that. So before you think this video doesn't have what you came here for, which is how to win an architecture competition, I want to go straight to that. So there are 10 results of competitions here, and you can see 10 different interviews with the team, with the winners of each competition, how they approached the competition, and how they thought made them, and what they thought made them the winners of that competition. So let's take a look at the African house design competition. And the winners of the first prize was the Georgic family house by Mariana Castellari and Giovanni Checchia D'Ambrosio, which they are from Italy. And they had a really nice project where it's a house designed for Africa, and it was a house to be actually constructed. So it wasn't only an ideas competition, but it was a competition where they had to think about how they could build this house. So it had to be kind of like realistic. They start by explaining the importance of knowing what the reach of the competition is going to be about. So if it's going to be a real construction project, then they have to approach it differently than if it was only an ideas project. So that is the first thing that you have to take in mind. After understanding that, obviously they took a deep look into houses in the country of Tanzania and all the countries that this model was going to be implemented on. They took a look on their construction techniques, on the materials they had available, and they used all of that information to create their new proposal. So it wasn't just like they were going to come from Italy and propose something new that no one else over there had seen before, but they were going to start working with local projects, local materials, and local construction techniques, which is, I think, the biggest plus of this project. The second competition I want to show you guys is the one that I was impacted by the most. I think this one was the most interesting. It had a lot of graphical representation force to it. The explanations of how they won the competition was very centered around the representation. So I think that is very interesting, and that is something that I think is of interest to you guys as well. So this is the Fairy Tales 2020 competition, and this year's winner was a project called The Year Without a Winter by Tomas Fischer and Carlotta Cominetti. They are from Hungary and from Italy. You see that these guys were 3D architectural visualizers, so obviously they have a great sense of visualization, and you guys can see that representation can help you win competitions. So if you have a great idea, if you have the best design ever, but if you don't know how to represent it well, how to make the best drawings, how to make the best presentation board, etc., then the chances of winning are very, very slim. They also explain that they developed the narrative of the story of the whole architectural project and the illustrations in a simultaneous way. So different from creating first the idea and then the images, or vice versa. They did this at the same time. So they tried to balance words and images, and leaving the readers enough freedom to wonder about causes and consequences, space and time. We tried to describe the facts, raise doubts, and questions without really giving any answers. We focused our work on colors, light, and sun reflections. Like a cinematographer, we chose a color scheme, which is one of the first elements to communicate the message behind the design on both visual and psychological levels. So just like the ones I showed you, I took a look and read deeply into the insights and how each winner thinks that they or thought that they won that competition and what made them special, what was their design process and what they did. And I could resume it in some points, but what was interesting about this is that all of the architects had a different approach to winning a competition. So there wasn't a magic formula per se, but there were some general ideas that they all followed, which I think is interesting for you guys to understand. So they all have some general advice, which I think is very interesting for everyone that wants to participate in competitions. But the ones that I found the most relevant were these. So the first thing we would recommend is certainly to carry out extra university projects. In our opinion, this is fundamental from several points of view. First of all, certainly the possibility of being able to deal with young people, studies, professionals from all over the world, generating in this way awareness of what will be your profession. The comparison with the international panorama is fundamental to be able to grow both from a professional and human point of view. Choose a competition you can easily relate to. Start thinking about the visuals and the presentation boards from the beginning. Try out as many different options as you can. If you work in a group, question others and also your solution. Sometimes even after months of design, you might have to start all over again. And do not be afraid to use reference images, as long as you can integrate them nicely onto your design. And finally, be brave and experimental. To win an architectural competition, you need to be able to show your idea. The jury usually has only a few seconds to look at the charts and will not read the descriptions or look at the details. Only works that seem interesting are later analyzed. The rest is discarded. So it is best if the project has such a clear and simple idea that one scheme is enough to explain it. It should be, in our opinion, the best possible solution to the problem that the competition is asking for. And that is it. And if you straight up want to buy the book, there's a link in the description to go buy the book as well. Let me know what you guys think. The book about magazines, etc. I would love to hear your opinion about that. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.